I feel like it's my secret weapon. Like it's an unfair advantage in the game of life, and I just want to share it.
Donny, how did you find Carnivore?
Well, oddly enough, Dave, thanks for having me. Um, it started sort of through osmosis in a strange way. Ultimately, I got to all the normal um, members of the five family: Baker, you, Chafee, Sally Norton with the oxalates and all of that. But ultimately, when I would say 5 years oldish, I uh, figured out how to go ahead and fry up a big slab of bacon on and butter while I was waiting for the cartoons. It was just my mom and I in the projects of Boston, and so that's how I first got introduced to it and enjoyed it. However, with that being said, unfortunately, I had all of the rest of the stuff to go along with it. The blueberry and the cocoa pebbles and the fruity pebbles and all of that stuff. And then there's a whole thing I found out recently with the Kellogg's and the whole scam that they've put on us forevermore. But so that's kind of how it. But I'll never forget that taste was the most glorious taste ever imaginable. And to this day, I don't know if there's anything that's tasted better than that bacon on the butter as a youngster. So, but that was probably the initial. But there's a lot more to it as we get going on how I found it most recently. My friend invited me out to visit him in Zurich last summer, so I was here for a few months. And I had been on a little bit of a path. Um, I'm a stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor from when I'm 23. So I had a tumor the size of a fist in my chest back then and all of that. Very lucky. God is real. I was very, very fortunate. I had the 6 months of the chemo and the radiation and all that. And I was a gifted athlete, so I excelled in all the sports: ice hockey, football, baseball, you name it. It kind of kept me out of trouble with that so-called ADD that they like to diagnose everybody with. Meanwhile, all they were doing was having us overdose on all their sugar. But anyways, so I went through all of that and things worked out. But then I had some hernia issues later, and I had some surgeries. I'm far removed from them now, but so I put on some the weight and wasn't as active and all of that good stuff. But then last summer, I when I cut out here, I was always been going to the gym and energy was decent. Yeah, and so I came out here and one of my good friends out here, he is does a lot of walking. So I was doing a lot of walking and I was eating some meat and some cheese because the cheese is remarkable out here. Not They don't poison it, and all of that good stuff, and or the meat, if you will. So I was eating some meat. I was eating the cheese, and I was walking, and I was about 220 ish, maybe 220 and a half when it first started, and I kind of was stuck there. And I'm still a pretty avid gym goer, but not really the energy, not feeling like I knew I could. And so then the weight slowly started to kind of dissipate and come off a little bit. I thought it was mostly the walking. I hadn't identified that it was. I mean, when I say I was going to get a piece of meat, I mean, it looked like something out of the Flintstones. Like a nice big piece of meat, and I'd get my cheese. I fell in love with this place. It looks like a cheese pie. It looks like pizza, but it's not. And they got eggs in there because I asked the ingredients, and I love my eggs. And so that was really nice. I bought 2 pieces this morning, so I always have cheese on demand with my meat. And also, and for the sake of budget too, because the piece of meat is $10 or $12, but it's worth it. And So that coupled with the cheese and with the walking and cutting back on the sugar was kind of how it started. So I got down to, before I went back to California, I got down to about maybe like 198, 197 ish, right? So I lost like 23 pounds. And I was like, wow, okay. I was still eating like the croissant and this and that and all of that, right? Because, I wanted to do the whole European thing. And, I wasn't big on, I haven't been huge on bread or the pasta or any of that stuff for a while, but I love my sugar. Okay. I do love my sugar, but you're not going to catch me doing the rainbow thing with the peppers and the all of that, broccoli. If I'm going to have my rainbow, it's going to be Mike and Ike's. It's going to be stuff like that, like candy. All right. My ex lady used to say that I'm a 4-year old. And when it comes to the candy, she's right. And maybe more so than that. But anyway, so that was tough to try to wind myself back off of the relentless candy. But again, I love my meat. I was eating my cheese. I love my eggs. Um, and now I go back and I'm still doing my gym, but the walking isn't as lovely because downtown San Diego, unfortunately, although it used to be a glorious spot, the walking is far different than it is here. So anyway, with that said, I was still doing my gym and up early, 3:34. Gym opens at 5. I love my friends at the gym. I do that, and then I start my thing. I usually come back and have eggs and maybe some meat or whatever. So so that's kind of how it started there. And then when I came back uh recently this summer, I was kind of stuck at that 196 to 198-ish. If I got to 200, I knew I had to snap out of it and bring it back, or I wasn't going to feel good about my life, right? And I've always been fairly decent. I got my grandmother's arms. She was about 400 pounds. She was always stirring the sauce and big Italian lady and all of that. So so anyway, so now this year comes and I start to do the walking again. I go right back to the meat. I go right back to my cheese place, and the weight starts coming off.
So you're back in Zurich at this point.
Correct. Correct. No gym yet. I've hit the gym yesterday. I wanted to get ready for you mentally. And then one other time, maybe couple weeks ago. Other than that, it's just been walking, meat, cheese, and walking Lake Zurich, which is lovely, right? And so I noticed that the weight started to come off now, like materially, noticeably, like pound a day. And then I was like, whoa, it got down to like 187 and a half. And I was like, that's my college football weight, give or take a pound. And that hasn't happened in forever. So I've been like giddy. Now I'm not even weighing myself because I just know I feel good and I'll get to it and I'll have a little bit of, a little, because the servings of an ice cream, if I want a treat or something, are much more um, palatable. So you feel like Godzilla, like in the States. You have a hot fudge sundae. It's it's absurd, right? So anyway, so that's kind of the long and short of how I found it, but how the last little bit of time, the tail end of the summer, has really kind of kicked it in to a nice comfort zone for me.
Wow. And so along the way, that your second stint in Zurich now, is that when you kind of discovered Dr. Baker, Dr. Chafee, or was
No,
that before
no, no.
that?
I did that over the last year or so for sure.
Right.
Maybe within the last 6, 10 months. And when
Right.
Chafee ever said the whole thing about the plants are to kill you, or plants are made to kill you, or what designed to kill you, I was like, oh my goodness, no wonder they taste so awful, right? And the fruit thing, I would have my oatmeal and some honey. I do like the raw honey. Um, and I know that's all debatable, but I figured it was better than the Mike and Ike's and the Haagen Dazs and the white Lynch chocolate, which is tremendous too. But But yeah, and then when I started, and then Sally Norton with the oxalates and the sweet potato and all the stuff that we were kind of programmed to go along with. I think the first one I saw was that baker, and I was like, this big burly guy just talking about me. Not really. And then I started, and then it was Chafee, and then you, and I was like, okay, this is good. This is has some legs for sure. But at first, it just seemed so crazy and so against the how we were taught and programmed. And then when I gave it that chance, that's the question I think you're looking for. Probably around, it was definitely post last summer, so it was probably like maybe like Jan Febish of this year. And so then I said, you know what, I'm gonna try this. And the meat, I love a good steak. My mom and I would have these in detail conversations. She had the severe bipolar. God love her. God rest her soul. And and I think she was a closet carnivore subconsciously from inception and just didn't know it. Because I would always say, "Oh, mom," because after the cancer I had, I was on the Ambien for sleeping and all of that good stuff. We'd always have these really interesting conversations about sleep. And she'd be like, Donny, you sleep when you're tired. You don't need those pills. They're just they change your brain, and you just don't need that. And she goes, you know what? If you really want to go to sleep, go make yourself a big fat steak. And I was like, yes, okay. So she loved her steak, rare, super rare. And anyway, so I got on that and I tried it. And for like the first maybe inside of a week, like 3, 4 days, I felt really good. I felt good. And I was worried, I probably psychosomatic worried myself into getting a little bound up with a little of the constipation. And I'm jumping around a little bit here, but we've been oh man, the fallacy of the fiber dichotomy is incredible, because I was doing that last summer thinking, oh, I'm doing this, I'm walking, fiber, Metamucil, yay for Donny, right? But to the contrary, because the more I look into it and the more it's being exposed, and like Chafee once said, just go eat some fat, right? So I got into the grass fed butter and blah, blah, blah. Problem solved. And I said, no kidding. This is getting very real and very interesting. And yeah, so that's kind of how that.
You had kind of a build up to this, like you didn't go in really, um, you didn't go in like cold turkey on this. Really, you've kind of been building up to this for a while, and it was January, February when you made more of a conscious decision
Yeah,
to do this, right?
yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
oh no, sorry, go on.
But it was a little bit, not half-hearted. I mean, I was in there, but I wasn't being, like I said, if I wanted my Mike and Ike's or I had that itch for the ice cream or whatever, I would. But I was mostly eating the meat. And I love like Steak and Butter Girl was the one who got me into the because I'm a big fan of the crock pot, right? Because I'm lazy when I'm running around. So I like to I'll throw my good unpoisoned water into the crock pot with a nice half a stick to a stick of nice butter, unpoisoned preferably, and then I'll put my beef in there, right? And that can be some of the grass fed, and I mean, it could be any kind of steak, or meat or whatever. I also like my ground beef. I'm not afraid of that. Certainly that works. And it's funny, Dave, because when the whole thing started, everybody's, oh my God, it was going to be such a dramatic effect on the grocery bill, right? That was the thing that was kind of on and people would say that now. And I'm like, yeah, but not if I'm not spending $5 for those, raspberries that go bad in 2 days, which I don't even like anyways. Blueberries, which are okay, I would put them in the oatmeal, which I find out is poison too, and all of that. And I'm not spending money on. I was always a big Tabasco guy, and I can take or leave it, especially today. But to walk into the grocery store now, I'm saving half the money. I mean, it's not even close because I'm just going and getting the meat. And, I was doing the organic chicken for a bit, but I'm like, wait, it doesn't taste as good as the meat. So why am I pushing that? And how they've always taught us to cut the meat off, the fat off of everything. And like, what a scam. Um,
Yeah. So you're down, I guess you've lost about 30 something pounds,
I would say
right?
32, 33-ish, give or take. I'm kind of in that 189, 190, and I'm not sweating it right now. I'm not,
Right. So what else have you noticed since you've been doing this
okay,
fully?
that's the question I've been waiting for. Okay, this is great. Okay, so certainly the aches, because at 55 and a half in a week or two, I'll be on the back side of 55. The ache thing is, I mean, definitely improved dramatically. I used to get as black as the ace of spades in the sun when I was a kid, right? Super dark. Then as I got older, I'd get sunburned. And I'm a little bit Irish and English too, but mostly Italian. So I got the freckles and all that, and but I still would never get really sunburnt. But I would in the last say 10 years or so. Now I'm getting dark again, and that's a very noticeable thing. So yeah, I really really like that. The gums, I used to have some blood on the gums and stuff. That's definitely subsided, which is nice. Overall energy. Oh, the fog. The I mean, I think most of the human race suffers from sugar induced ADD. Okay. I've always been an excitable kid and I can bounce around and jump around and all of that. But my intentions were always good. My heart was always in the right place. But I was, if you're addicted and overdosing on the craziest volume of sugar for your whole life, like we all are or were, um, yeah, it's very easy to be, you know, things aren't. So now I'm a little bit more. I don't know if calm is the right word, but but I can listen, and I enjoy. I've always been a decent listener. If I could just. So anyway, so yeah, I enjoy that, and that's been the clarity, the mental clarity is much improved, without question. Oh, and the body. I've never been stinky guy, thank God. God is good, honest to God. But I noticed that it's really like, yeah, I mean, I would use deodorant sparingly if I was going out on a date just in case. But yeah, not really. Yeah, so that's another nice thing that's good. Um, from the chemo and the radiation, I don't know if this was directly from this, but I always had the big toenails that were kind of funky, and I was like, oh, that's just kind of bothered me. But those are growing in, lovely, amazing. Those are kind of coming back to life, which is very pleasant to see. But the overall energy, sleep is better, um, which is paramount because I definitely need my sleep.
I think the best thing about carnivore really is like you start to feel like you're getting your younger years back. It doesn't matter when you start, whether it's 40 or 50 or 60 or 70, the clock starts going backwards, right?
Very good. I'm glad that you said that. And I thought about this morning when I was going to get my coffee. Oh, I do drink my coffee, by the way. I've just cream. I have in the morning. I stop with the sugar nonsense. years ago, like probably 20 years ago. Thank goodness for that. So I got that going for me. I saw one of your recent things. You recently scratched that, and I love how you know, how it's not as I think you worded it perfectly on how it's not as, you know, you're not as in tune, that you're missing out and all of that. I thought that,
Right.
yeah, one day, but baby steps. But I do like a good cup of coffee in the morning with just cream. Pardon me. But to answer your question, um, yeah, part of me wishes that I, you know, but our parents and my mom, nobody was informed. I mean, the internet's so vast now, the information's available. So I'm not going to throw stones at my gorgeous mom, who, you know, who just didn't know. She just didn't know any better, you know. So you know, or whether it was cigarettes with the windows up, they just didn't know. I mean, they maybe should have known, but you know, they didn't know. They know now. So anyway, so yeah, part of me is a little disappointed or disenchanted with the fact that I wasn't exposed to this half my life ago. But then I'm a kind of glass half full kind of fellow, and I have to look at it from the other, you know, flip the script on it a little bit and say, you know what? I'm just grateful that I found it at this point, and that there is you know, not just an audience, a community that gets it and is, you know, avid believers of this, and it's real. This isn't just fiction. I mean, this works. So yeah, I just have to look at it like that. Like, okay, well, we didn't get it back then, but I have it now. I'm blessed enough to know that from now on, it's my gift to lose or to blow. You know.
Right. Yeah. How are people around you reacting with you eating just meat, just eggs, that kind
You
of
know,
thing?
it's funny because very few can get it. Okay. I have some friends that I care about a lot that I wish could, you know, maybe open up to it a little bit or at least try it. I have a friend in Europe that lost, I don't know, he lost, I think, a couple of 150 pounds or something over the last year and a half. So I know he's done well. I know he believes. Um, but yeah, some people, I feel like, and I love to try to talk to people about it because I know it works and it's coming from the heart, and it's, you know, and I know it can help them. But I don't want to drive it down anybody's throat either, because it can be exhausting, and they're going to either figure it out or they're still going to have their ailments, and eventually they're going to hopefully give it a shot, you know, and see that I'm just running around like Howdy Doody and just give it a chance, you know.
Like, do you feel, since you've been really, really more strict with carnivore, do you feel like the muscle comes on easier when you're in the gym?
Oh my God, my stomach was always. I come from a big Italian family, and we're just the big sweaty Italians that are overeating at the weddings, and we're loud, and it's great. No, I love them all. Okay, well, most of them, but anyways, but yeah, the stomach. I never really had abs, even when I was playing college football, high school football. I never really had and I was in really good shape, young. Um, but yeah, the muscle is definitely coming. The strength is good, and because I've had some hernia surgeries, I'm not trying to be Hercules. I'm just trying to build that lean muscle, feel good, that quality muscle, have my energy right, and and that's it. You know, just try to run into my, you know, next 30 years of my life with not feeling pain and feeling pretty good. And but yeah, I would say the muscle coming around is incredible, as far as like how, yeah, it just, I just look different. And the inflammation, that's what I was hoping I wouldn't forget. The inflammation alone, from the feet to the heels of the feet to all of that is just a whole different thing.
So do you have an eating pattern day to day? Like, do you eat once or twice a day? And how are your meals made up?
Well, it's a little different while I'm in Europe. But like what I'll do, I've done the fasting before. I'm not adverse to the fasting. I can do that. I can always skip the breakfast, but because I'm up so early and I like to hit the gym early, and I usually do a nice 35, 40-minute circuit that's intense, not a lot of rest. When I'm done, I'm hungry. So I usually have the meat going on the dial in the crock pot, and I'll come back and I'll have some eggs, maybe a little cheese with some meat or the ground beef, and that's how it'll go. So what I'll try to do is not eat. So I used to be so ravenous in the evening when it came to eating, because it just, yeah, that's just the way it was. And I would eat and then go to sleep, and then very bad. And I almost couldn't go to sleep if I didn't eat later. And this was going back a couple of years, and this was not the way to do it, obviously. But to answer your question, yeah, it would be mostly reverse now. If I'm not working out or if I'm skipping, or I can I can scratch that. But because my cheese place opens and they have it all come out fresh at 7:30 here, and I get the coffee so early, I'm getting after that cheese probably around 8:30 or 9 o'clock here. But I can stop it all, shut it all down 5:36 at night. So I'm not doing like a full crazy fasting. With that said, Chafee had me feeling really optimistic back when I was watching something with him. Um, and he was like, because if you're eating mostly the meat and cutting out all that other garbage, you know, the flaky puffs and the croissants and the whatever, and you're just eating the meat, the eggs or whatever, your body's mostly in that sort of keto type of deal anyhow. So even if you're not fasting and you're eating mostly like that, you're still, I knew I was doing far better than I was treating my body in years past. So it's a process. We're learning. The journey is enjoyable indeed. And yeah, I'm curious to see how it continues.
Do you think it's easier to maintain a carnivore lifestyle in Zurich than it would be in the States? Like, do you think there's more temptation maybe when you go home?
No, that's a great question. No, because I can be pretty disciplined. I go buy 40, $60 worth of meat on sale, no problem. And I'm a lot more careful, or I have a lot more trepidation when it comes to whaling back the sugar treats. A lot more self-control, because by eating more of the meat, eating more of the eggs, the satiation, or the being satiated for much longer. Without that, I used to always be eating, perpetual, like always grabbing something, and growing up when I was as a kid, not necessarily with my mom, but when I went other spots, there was always the chips and the cereals and the. I remember thinking that healthy cinnamon raisin toast with margarine on it was actually the healthy way to go. I mean, in comparison to what my other options were a million years ago. So yeah, I just feel like I feel like it's my secret weapon. Like it's an unfair advantage in the game of life, and I just want to share it with anybody that will listen. And if they won't listen, we'll poke a little, but I'm not, like I said, it's a free country for the most part, changing rapidly. But yeah,
So Donny, is there a way people can reach out to you? Do you have any social media or anything?
oh, it's nothing related to this yet, but I'm thinking about it for sure. I got my email, just my Donny Samaria, the number 8 at gmail.com. I'd be happy to talk to anybody about my journey without question. I got the at Donny Samaria at for the Instagram, but it's nothing. I put stuff. I'll put pictures on a rail of the beef in the crock pot and stuff like that. But my thinking is that Meatheads in Donnyland, that show is going to be coming to a theater near you at some point. Just not sure exactly when, but yeah, I'd love to have some sort of a contribution. It's fun. It's fun, and it's something we're dealing with every day. So yeah, I've been hook, line, and sinker on the space and the lifestyle for give or take, 8 months to a year or so.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. So I'll link to your email and your Instagram below.
Uh,
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Donny. Really appreciate your time.
Dave, the pleasure is all mine. Thanks for the response, and yeah, keep rocking on.